Think about the last time you booked a flight or, just bought a coffee. You handed over your credit card, or maybe you tapped your phone and the transaction felt pretty much instant, right?
Yeah, completely seamless.
But beneath the surface, you were relying on this entire architecture built around human time, human identity, and, well, most importantly, human trust. The airline or the coffee shop trusted that the bank would eventually send the money, mainly because they knew who you were. I mean, you exist in the physical world.
Exactly. It is a system entirely predicated on the fact that you have a credit score, a billing address, and a legal identity that can basically be held accountable if the funds don't actually show up.
But, and this is what we're getting into today, what happens when the entity making the purchase doesn't actually have a physical address? Like, what happens when your personal AI assistant decides it needs to buy a burst of cloud computing power, or book a complex travel itinerary, or even negotiate with a dozen different merchant servers in literally a matter of milliseconds?
Well, the tap-to-pay system we rely on is just completely obsolete in that scenario.
Yeah, it breaks down. We are entering an era of commerce that operates in the dark at speeds we literally can't even perceive. So, welcome to today's deep dive. Today, we are unpacking the concept of the machine's dollar and looking at this massive kind of hidden turf war for the financial infrastructure of the AI economy. You really need to understand this because the way money moves in the background of your digital life is being fundamentally rewired right now.
It really is. The plumbing of the digital world is being ripped out and replaced as we speak. We are essentially watching the largest financial institutions on Earth panic, pivot, and, attempt to enclose a whole new economy before it escapes them entirely.
And we have some incredible research on the table today to help us understand exactly how they're doing this. We'll be pulling from a really detailed strategic analysis by Hybrid5 on stablecoin competition, looking at a specialized dispatch regarding Ripple's live payment corridors, and diving deep into this absolutely brilliant Substack piece by Janus the Watcher.
Yeah, that Substack piece is fascinating. It argues that programmable money is fundamentally not neutral money.
Right, which is a huge distinction we'll get into. So, okay, let's unpack this. If we strip away the traditional credit card, what is the core problem an autonomous software agent faces when it actually tries to buy something?
So the core problem is just the total absence of history. Like, if you think about it, almost all human commerce is actually built on credit.
Even debit cards, in a way.
Yeah, exactly. When you sign up for a monthly API contract or your cloud storage subscription, that company is essentially giving you a rolling microloan. You consume the server space today, they send you an invoice in 30 days, and trust sits in the gap between those two events. They ran a credit check, or they put a hold on a valid credit card.
Right. They know they can chase me down if I don't pay up.
You are tethered to the physical legal system. Now, picture an autonomous software agent interacting with a random data server halfway across the world for a total duration of, say, 200 milliseconds.
Which is nothing.
Right. That agent might have only discovered that specific server 4 seconds ago just to complete a highly specialized task for you. It has no credit history. It has no monthly billing cycle. You simply cannot run a credit check in 200 milliseconds for an entity that doesn't legally exist.
So machines cannot rely on trust.
No, they can't. They have to rely on something called instant atomic settlement.
Okay, yeah, see that phrase atomic settlement pop up constantly in the Hybrid5 analysis. Break down what that actually means mechanically for us.
Sure. In computer science, an atomic transaction means it is indivisible. It happens entirely, or it doesn't happen at all.
Like all or nothing.
Exactly. There is no middle state. There is no pending status.
Yeah.
In the context of a machine payment, the AI agent cryptographically proves it has the digital funds, the merchant server proves it has the data or the compute power, and they swap them simultaneously. The payment and the delivery of the service are the exact same event. No IOU is generated, no invoice is sent.
Okay, so wait. If they can mathematically swap funds and services instantly like that, why wouldn't they just plug that capability into the existing Visa or MasterCard network? I mean, we already have fast payment rails.
We have fast rails, yeah, but we don't have arithmetically compatible rails.
Arithmetically compatible.
Yeah. Traditional payment systems have a fixed cost floor. When you swipe a card, there is generally a fixed fee of, say, roughly 30 cents plus a percentage of the total transaction.
Right.
If you buy a $30 hardcover book, eating a 30-cent fee makes economic sense. But an AI agent isn't buying a book. It is buying a single query. It might be making a single API call to a language model that costs literally a quarter of a billionth of a dollar.
A quarter of a billion. I mean, you literally cannot divide a penny that many times in a traditional bank ledger.
You can't. And if you attempt to apply a 30-cent fixed fee to a transaction that costs a fraction of a cent, the fee dwarfs the actual payment by thousands of times. The math completely collapses. Machines physically cannot use human rails because the friction is just heavier than the cargo. They require a system capable of true nanopayments.
Which sounds like speculative science fiction, honestly, but the data you brought in from the sources shows this is already happening at a staggering scale. The numbers from the Coinbase launch just blew my mind.
They really show how fast this is moving. So in May 2025, Coinbase launched something called Buy 402. And that name is actually a brilliant nod to internet history, by the way.
Oh, right, the old error codes.
Yeah. Back in the 1990s, when the architects of the internet were building the fundamental error codes, like the famous HTTP 404 for not found, they also created HTTP 402, which stood for payment required. The early internet pioneers knew digital cash would be necessary eventually, but they just didn't have the blockchain cryptography to make it work back then, so the 402 code sat dormant for decades.
Wow, so Coinbase revived it for AI agents.
Exactly. And in its first few months, the Buy 402 protocol processed 165 million agent-to-agent transactions.
165 million. And it isn't just crypto companies experimenting with this either.
Not at all. Amazon wired this exact type of atomic settlement directly into its Bedrock AI service, allowing for nanosecond settlements that clear in about 200 milliseconds. And Visa has been quietly running a stablecoin settlement pilot across 9 different blockchain networks. By April 2026, that pilot hit a $7 billion annualized run rate.
Okay, so what does this all mean? It's like, instead of buying a whole glass of water up front because the cost of handing over the glass is so high, machines need to be able to buy water by the individual molecule, paying exactly as they sip.
That is the absolute perfect way to visualize the shift.
Well, if machines need to pay by the molecule, they obviously need a new kind of liquid, right? Something that doesn't just evaporate due to transaction fees every time it moves. And that leads perfectly into the two new dollars fighting to be the water in these pipes. Let's look at the first contender, Ripple's RLUSD.
Right. So Ripple launched RLUSD in late 2024. It is a one-to-one backed dollar stablecoin. That means for every digital RLUSD token moving around on the internet, there is a physical US dollar or a short-term treasury bill sitting in a segregated bank account backing it up.
Okay, pretty standard stablecoin model so far.
Yeah, exactly. It was built to operate natively on the XRP ledger and the Ethereum network, and it secured full regulatory approval in jurisdictions like New York and Dubai. The marketing pitch focused heavily on cross-border payments, remittances, and instant business payouts.
But, and this is where it gets interesting, the Janus the Watcher dispatch highlights a live production pilot that tells a very different story about how RLUSD is actually being used out in the wild.
Yeah, Janus analyzed a massive pilot program running on one of the busiest financial lanes on the planet, the U.S.-Mexico remittance corridor. In this live environment, Ripple's RLUSD settled directly against MXNB, which is a fully regulated, peso-backed stablecoin issued by a subsidiary of the Bitso exchange.
Oh.
And they traded these two stablecoins across something called a permissioned exchange on the XRP ledger.
Okay, pause on permissioned exchange for a second, because that feels really important. How is that different from just, trading crypto normally?
Well, a permissionless exchange is what most people think of when they hear crypto, like anyone, anywhere can connect a wallet and trade without revealing their identity. A permissioned exchange, though, is a closed loop. The underlying technology is still a fast cryptographic blockchain, but a central authority completely controls the gates. Every single institution trading on that specific exchange has undergone strict anti-money laundering checks.
So it's high-speed blockchain tech, but heavily surveilled and restricted. That makes sense for heavy institutional money. But wait, I have to push back on this pilot for a second. For a decade, Ripple's central pitch to the banking world has been that the XRP token itself is the ultimate bridge asset. I mean, they have published white papers claiming that using the XRP token as a bridge between two currencies offers like 15 times the capital efficiency of trying to build direct liquidity pairs for every single fiat currency in the world.
So why on earth wouldn't they use XRP as the bridge in their own showcase corridor?
That is a critical insight here. because capital efficiency is just a mathematical model and demand is reality.
Right.
The model quietly assumes that XRP is the central hub of the universe. But when Ripple actually built the live corridor, the actual product they needed to charge real-world institutions for, they had to listen to their clients. And institutional clients just don't want to touch a volatile, unbacked cryptocurrency if they don't have to, and they just want dollars and pesos.
Exactly. They wanted regulated dollars talking directly to regulated pesos. So the live corridor completely routed around the XRP token.
Wow. So when the rubber met the road, the bridge asset wasn't a crypto token. It was just two different fiat-backed stablecoins speaking the same digital language.
As Janice points out in the dispatch, the most efficient bridge in the world earns absolutely nothing until traffic actually routes over it. And the very first major real-world corridor chose to bypass it entirely.
Which is wild. Okay, so if RLUSD is already operational and handling complex cross-border settlements, why did a completely different coalition feel the need to launch a competitor a year later? Because in June 2026, we see the announcement of OUSD, or OpenUSD.
Right.
And this isn't just one company. It is a consortium of over 140 massive corporations. I mean, the guest list is staggering. Visa, MasterCard, Stripe, Coinbase, Google, BlackRock. Even Ripple is listed as a partner, which seems incredibly contradictory.
Well, it's designed to be the ultimate shared infrastructure, right? The consortium promised no minting or redeeming fees and collective governance. But the critical difference is its stated focus. The marketing materials heavily prioritize agentic commerce, explicitly targeting these autonomous software agents making nanopayments.
The Hybrid 5 analysis predicts a brutal collision here. I mean, what are the odds these $2 just, peacefully divide the market?
Very, very low. Hybrid 5 gives a 60 to 70% probability of direct, heavy competition between RLUSD and OUSD in the institutional and machine payment space. They are hunting the exact same enterprise jobs.
There's no way they don't clash.
Right. The analysis suggests there is under a 30% chance they stay cleanly separated. At the end of the day, AI agents and massive enterprises are going to ruthlessly optimize. They will simply pick whichever dollar is cheapest, most universally connected, or offers the best incentives.
But here's where it gets really interesting to me. Look at the names in that OUSD consortium again. Visa, MasterCard, Stripe, Google. The companies that traditionally build the financial pipes are the exact same ones suddenly building the OUSD water. They aren't just building a stablecoin to compete with something like Circle's USDC. They are building what Janus the Watcher calls the Guild Zone dollar.
Which brings us to the central and perhaps most unsettling thesis of Janus's Substack piece, the idea that programmable is not neutral.
Right. Unpack the difference between those two concepts for me, because that feels central to all of this.
It is. So neutral money is like physical cash. If I hand you a $20 bill, the transaction is over. No third party can intervene, reverse the transaction, or dictate what you spend that $20 on next. It is completely agnostic to the user and the purpose.
That's just value.
Exactly. Programmable money, however, has software code embedded directly into the asset itself. You can script its behavior down to the millisecond.
And the sources list some very specific, intense guardrails these companies have already hard-coded into this new money.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the mandates. Google has implemented mandates that bind every single payment to a cryptographically signed intent, meaning the money literally cannot move unless the specific purpose is pre-authorized.
Yep.
Visa's Trusted Agent Protocol actively checks the identity of an AI agent against Visa's own proprietary directory before allowing a settlement to clear. And Stripe has introduced shared payment tokens that are single-use, entirely bound to a specific merchant, and time-boxed to expire in minutes.
So what we are looking at is the most controllable form of money ever engineered, yet it is being marketed as autonomous. Janus points out the glaring contradiction here. A dollar that a corporate board of directors can freeze with a keystroke is just a leash, no matter how long they let the agent run.
It's like we're giving these AI agents high-performance sports cars, but we've secretly programmed the GPS so they can only drive to company-approved stores. And just in case, we've installed a remote kill switch in the engine. They can drive 100 miles an hour, but only exactly where the guild allows them to go.
That's a great analogy. But, to be fair to the consortium, we do have to examine their justification for the leash. This control mechanism is heavily pitched as consumer protection.
Okay, how so?
Well, if you are going to give an autonomous piece of software access to your financial life, you want fraud control. You want to know that if your AI assistant hallucinates and tries to buy 10,000 pairs of shoes from a malicious server, Visa can instantly step in, revoke the agent's spending power, and freeze the funds. It is a necessary seatbelt.
But the seatbelt also traps you in the car, right?
Hmm.
On a sovereignty level, this is a total enclosure of the AI economy. It replaces the concept of a truly neutral, issuerless digital currency like USDC with money entirely governed by a corporate board. The AI agent is autonomous inside the walled garden and entirely paralyzed outside of it.
Absolutely. And the million-dollar question we have to ask is why these legacy financial giants are so desperate to build this specific walled garden, especially if they are supposedly offering these agent rails with zero transaction fees.
Yeah. Why do Visa, MasterCard, and Stripe care so much about controlling this new machine dollar? What's in it for them if the classic 2% swipe fee is gone?
To understand the prize, we have to look at why that 2% interchange fee exists in the first place and why the machine economy completely destroys it. That 2% fee is fundamentally priced to cover human unreliability. It pays for massive fraud detection departments, customer dispute resolutions, chargebacks, and credit defaults.
Right. It is the cost of doing business with humans who change their minds or get their cards stolen.
Exactly. But an AI agent executing an atomic settlement against a service it just mathematically verified doesn't experience buyer's remorse. It doesn't accidentally commit friendly fraud.
So charging a machine a 2% insurance premium for a risk that doesn't exist is just absurd.
Completely absurd. The traditional revenue model of the last 60 years instantly collapses in the machine economy. If VC tries to charge an AI a 2% swipe fee, the AI will simply write a few lines of code and route the payment around them on a cheaper blockchain.
So if the fee model is dead, why is this massive consortium spending billions to build zero-fee digital rails? The sources detail this massive pivot toward capturing something called the float. Break that down for us.
Seigniorage is the real engine here. When a company issues a stablecoin like OUSD, the actual physical US dollars backing that coin don't just sit in a vault gathering dust.
Right, they invest them.
They invest them in safe, yield-bearing assets, typically short-term US Treasury bills. Currently, those treasuries pay a significant interest rate. But that interest, the reserve yield, does not legally go to you, the person holding the digital token. It flows entirely up to the issuer.
And because machines need to settle instantly, they have to pre-fund their wallets. They have to lock up massive amounts of digital collateral just to have the liquidity to make those nano payments work.
Now, imagine a billion tireless AI agents transacting 24 hours a day, locking up collateral across millions of payment channels. They are unwittingly creating the largest, stickiest pool of costless deposits ever assembled in human history. Janice the Watcher refers to this as a Cantillon pump at machine speed.
Okay, the Cantillon pump. Explain that concept.
The Cantillon effect is an economic theory which basically states that whoever is closest to the creation of money benefits the most from it, while the people furthest away just experience the inflation. In this scenario, the machines are doing all the economic labor, generating trillions in transaction volume and locking up the capital, but 100% of the yield generated by that massive mountain of locked capital flows directly upstream to the OUSD consortium members.
Wow. It's like a toll booth operator realizing that teleportation was just invented.
Yeah.
They know their concrete toll booths are suddenly totally obsolete.
Right.
So instead of fighting teleportation, they aggressively build free teleportation pads for everyone. But the hidden catch is they get to keep all the interest generated by the money sitting in your wallet while you travel.
It is a phenomenal pivot. If we connect this to the bigger picture, though, Janus makes a really sobering observation. This isn't some expansive, brilliant new business model. It is a lifeboat.
A lifeboat for who?
For the legacy financial system. Think about the scale of the contraction here. The U.S. card interchange pool, those 2% swipe fees, generates over $100 billion a year in revenue for the banks and networks.
$100 billion.
Yeah, but the yield on even a few $100 billion of stablecoin reserves is only in the low tens of billions. They're desperately trying to replace a $100 billion empire with a $20 billion business because it is the only remaining claim they have on a system where actual transaction costs are trending toward absolute zero. It is a managed retreat.
That are literally sprinting to take a massive pay cut just to ensure they aren't entirely erased from the board. But, every grand corporate strategy has a blind spot. We need to look at the 10th man counter-argument here. What happens if this massive corporate plan just fails?
The fatal flaw in the consortium's plan comes back to the very nature of the AI agents they are trying to capture. By current U.S. law, compliant regulated issuers like the OUSD consortium cannot pass that treasury yield down to the token holders because that would classify the stablecoin as an unregistered security.
Oh, right. But a permissionless, offshore, or purely decentralized protocol doesn't care about U.S. securities law.
They don't. A neutral decentralized stablecoin can easily say, hey, lock your collateral in our smart contracts and we will automatically stream 5% interest directly back to your wallet.
And if an AI agent is pure optimizing software, programmed to find the absolute most efficient financial path to execute a task, and it sees $1 offering 0% yield and another neutral token offering 5% yield, is going to switch immediately.
Instantly. This raises an important question about loyalty. AI agents are the coldest, most ruthless customers ever assembled. They have zero brand attachment. They do not care that Visa or Google's logo is stamped on the protocol. If a neutral token pays them a yield that the compliant tokens legally cannot match, the machines will defect from the OUSD walled garden by the millions in a matter of milliseconds.
Oh, there's just doing the math.
Exactly. The entire premise of the corporate enclosure relies on agents staying obediently inside the leash, but their very architecture as optimizers makes them the most likely entities to jump the fence.
So if you are an observer, a developer, or an investor watching this turf war unfold, what is the practical strategy? The Hybrid 5 analysis lays out a very clear positioning framework. They suggest maintaining an opportunistic long position on the broader infrastructure itself.
Which means keeping optionality across both the RLUSD and OUSD ecosystems. The deciding factor in this war will not be the flashy press releases, the size of the consortium member lists, or the theoretical white papers. It will be the raw, on-chain settlement data. You really have to watch where the actual launch volume goes to see if the machines accept the corporate leash, or if they relentlessly fragment onto neutral, yield-bearing rails.
Okay, so we've covered the death of human credit, the arithmetic necessity of atomic nanopayments, the battle between RLUSD and OUSD, and the desperate corporate hunt for the float. If we synthesize all these sources, what is the core takeaway regarding the future of the machine economy?
The primary takeaway is that the machine economy is not going to run on neutral money. It is going to run on heavily measurable, programmable money. And right now, the legacy financial giants, the institutions that survived on the friction of human commerce for 60 years, are in a dead sprint to own the new digital meter. They are trying to enclose the AI economy before the AI economy realizes it might not need them at all.
So, to you listening, watch how your own digital tools evolve over the next 12 months. When your AI assistant inevitably starts making complex multi-step purchases on your behalf, look under the hood at the specific rails it is using. Are you getting a cut of that incredible digital efficiency, or is all the leftover financial value flowing straight up into the consortium's float?
It is arguably the defining economic question of the next decade.
And there's one final thought I want to leave you with, something to mull over that builds on everything we've analyzed today. We spent this whole time discussing machines needing to buy water by the molecule and the corporate giants rushing to build the pipes and supply their specific brand of corporate water. But if AI agents are purely optimizing software, constantly hunting for the path of least resistance, how long until two advanced agents realize they don't actually need any corporate dollar at all? I mean, what happens when they realize they can simply bypass the stablecoins entirely and just start issuing cryptographic credit directly to each other, perfectly collateralized by their own unused computing power? What happens to the financial guild when the machines simply become their own banks?
That is the scenario that keeps the consortium awake at night. Until next time, keep diving.